guys. Hope that you're having a really good week, and as ever, very glad to be with you here today, talking to you like this. Really just enjoying these little morning recording sessions that I'm doing now every week. And what I thought I'd talk about this week is a topic that one of the Life of a Catholic Librarian readers actually suggested, who is Cindy. And she had written to me and when I was looking for suggestions on topics and asked if I would talk about faith in marriage and what my thoughts were on that. She thought a lot of people may, relate to that and have stories to share and try to help each other out on that one. And I thought that was a great idea. And, faith things in general have been on my mind a lot this week. Just with some novenas that I've been praying and thoughts about my writing and it's really good feast days too. We had Feast of St. Henry on Monday, of course, is my son's patron, and the Feast of St. Kateri on Tuesday, and she's just one of my favorites, as you well know, and I wrote about her recently over at Catholic Mom. She's very important to me. So July is just full of these interesting, good saint feast days, and I absolutely love learning more about the lives of the saints, and I've got a couple good ones to recommend at the end of our talk. But at any rate, as is usual, it takes me a little while to build up to where I'm going with this. But, all of these really good Catholic things, and the communion of saints and chaplets and novenas and all of this good stuff is going on in the back of my head. And I thought this is a really good week to talk about Cindy's suggestion, talking about faith and its role in marriage. Now, obviously, that's a gigantic topic that I can only begin to brush the surface of, but, just to give you quickly my story, right, and situation, and then see if that's, applicable to any of you. And I think it would be applicable to other situations, because the point is, I think marriage is something that is so, every single one is going to be different. And so it's not like anybody's situation in their marriage is going to be exactly the same as anybody else's. But I think that there's certain overarching things that could be applied to any number of different situations. So, so here is my faith situation in my marriage. Which is that, obviously, that I'm Catholic. My husband, Mike, is a baptized and confirmed Catholic, but he is not currently practicing his faith. And if you asked my husband what his faith is, he would say that he's an atheist. I would say he's more of an agnostic, in my opinion. But he doesn't currently have faith in God. And the thing is, though, that he's very supportive of my faith. We were married in the church, and I'm raising our children in the faith, and he's very supportive of that, and has gone to all of the baptism classes and first communion preparation and all that. And he is wonderful, and so I am very easily able to practice my faith in my marriage, and I'm very happily married to my husband, even though we do have this difference between us, right? Obviously, we have a lot in common, or we wouldn't be married. And it was a deal breaker for me before we got married that I would not have married somebody that wouldn't have married me in the church. So that was prioritized. And I mean, that was never a question from the outside. Of course, we're going to get married in the church. That was never an issue for us. But I know for other couples it is. So I'm just very aware of that. And I feel for you, because I can imagine that would be very difficult. So that's my situation, right? My husband comes to Mass with us sometimes, but most of the time he doesn't. And so, of course, I worry about that. I worry about the effect that could have on our kids, right? In terms of setting an example. But this is the conclusion that I have come to. In marriage, you are one with your spouse, right? And you have a bond, spiritually, emotionally, physically, that you don't have with anybody else. But you can't change and control that person, right? That is all up to God. And so everybody's on a different place in their spiritual journey. I think that it requires a lot of discernment to enter into a marriage with somebody that isn't practicing of the same faith that you are, certainly. And for Catholics, it's very important, if you're practicing your faith, to get married in the church or to get a dispensation from canonical form if your intended would like to get married, say, in his or her church instead. But you're still then considered married under the laws of the church. That is, if you want to practice your faith, that is of such importance. But even if you do marry in the church and maybe you share the same faith, right? You're both Catholic. Life, right? It's a long journey and things can change. Somebody may be much more fervent in their faith than the other, or somebody may change, right, their faith. And boy, those can be tough situations to deal with. Or if you enter into your marriage and you already know that you're of a different faith. So I think that in all of these different situations, in my opinion, the most important thing is prayer. Some people pray together because they share faith. But if you're in a situation like I am where you don't pray together because your spouse isn't at the same spiritual place that you are, then it is so important to pray for the other person. Even if you are praying together, I think it's important to pray for the other person. I'm praying for my husband every single day. And I just think that is so important. And I think that it's hard, right? If you're in, say, a much more stressful situation, in terms of different faith, and maybe your spouse is very much against the church or, really doesn't want you to practice your faith or something like that. It's like, okay, yeah, I can pray for the person. Okay, good. But on a day-to-day basis, that's still such a hard thing. It's like you don't know when you're going to see any result, right? I know that's hard, and I have no answer, right? But I just know it's one of those things that we just have to trust. This is what we need to do. This is what God is calling us to do, is to try to get our spouse to heaven, and we need to pray for him or her. And that is just so important. And for me, I just know I'm very task oriented, right? And so I like to have something specific in mind. So a novena, I pray a lot. Our Lady and Doer of Knots novena. I've prayed 54-day rosary novenas. For larger intentions, right, such as this. And that makes me feel better to have, this goal in mind, a specific prayer for that intention for a specific number of days. I mean, I include that in my rosary intention every day, but I like also having those. And if you don't share faith with your spouse, I think that another important thing is that you not pressure them or try to impose guilt on them. You set the example. And, you pray for their heart to change, to come to faith. But you can't, that's never going to work. You can't put pressure on them. But I think that it's very important to always invite, right? I definitely do that with my husband regularly. I know, sometimes he'll suggest, like, well, he loves going to the vigil mass. I usually go Sunday mornings, right? But if he wants to go to mass with us, he'll suggest, hey, let's go to a vigil. It's like, okay. So go to the vigil that week. But other weeks, kids and I are just getting ready to go to mass Sunday morning. I say, hey, you want to come with us? And he'll usually just say, no, I'm going to get some stuff done around the house. Okay, you can't put guilt on him. The other thing too is that you can't take that personally. That's not a rejection of you. That's just, I know that's what he really wants. He just wants to get housework done, right? It's nothing personal. And that's not a rejection. And so don't take it as a rejection and then sort of allow those emotions to come out, right? And then the person just has a more negative association with being asked to go to church. So that's my advice. It's not always easy. I think faith and marriage, regardless of if you share the same faith or not. And so you just pray for that person, and you love that person in such a unique way, and all you can do is to have faith that God is going to work all of this for good, right? That's my advice. And so I have two saints to talk about quickly this week. I have Saint Monica. She prayed for her son, right? So this wasn't a marriage situation per se, but she prayed for a long time for this guy, right? And so in terms of husbands and wives, you got your whole married life till death do you part to pray for each other. And so I think Saint Monica is a great patron for that. And she does have a chaplet, which I'd like to acquire, and I'll add that to my collection of chaplets I'm going to create audio for. The other, I have this book that I got a long time ago called The Secret Diary of Elizabeth Lazur, and she is a servant of God currently in terms of the canonization process. And she's a French woman who married a man born of a Catholic family, but had become a very ardent atheist. So this is a totally different situation than mine. I mean, my husband is a very pro-Catholic, pro-religious atheist. He's a philosophy professor, and he likes religion, finds it fascinating. We talk about it, and he's very supportive of it. But her situation was completely different. Her husband became very anti-Catholic, so she had a challenging situation. She prayed for him throughout her life, and she died of cancer fairly early in her life. And he became, after her death, he found her diary, had a conversion experience, and became a priest, a Dominican even. So I would definitely recommend this book. Very encouraging. I read it a long time ago. I should probably reread it, but excellent stuff. So, Servant of God, Elizabeth Lazor, please write in. Tell me about your marriage. Tell me about the place faith has in it. This could be a great discussion. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye.